Event 1, 250k years ago. Kool main star, forms, it's a pink-type star. Event 2, 249k years ago. Kool B, C, D and A form. Event 3, 235k years ago. Kool C causes axial datation of the first rocks of Geothx's core. Event 4, 150k years ago. Geothx and a bigger planet, Nilfin, forms, at around 250,000 Kelvin at its birth, now being 70,000 kelvins. Event 5, 135k years ago. One of Geothx's neighbors, Nilfin, collides with Kool C, causing Kool C to go sideways tilted. Event 6, 75k years ago. Geothx officially becomes a low-porosity gas giant. Event 7, today, Geothx is insanely warm. Event 8, 150k years later. Kool starts to die. As of this, Kool B is slowly turning into a star. Event 9, 170k years later. Kool B, C, D and A combine, making Kool Jr., a M-type star. Event 10, 200k years later. Kool starts to become a red giant. Event 11, 201k years later. Geothx and Elithx, formed 250k years earlier, collide and get flinned out of the system by Kool Jr. Event 12, 277k years later. Kool is now a yellow supergiant, with the luminosity of 30 million suns. Event 13, 340k years later. Kool has turned into a red hypergiant, being the size of around 3 Veronia systems. And 2 solar systems. Event 14, 450k years later. Kool has turned into a red ultraradiant, reaching its peak size. Event 15, 550k years later. Kool has turned into a WR-type star, and now it is fusing oxygen. Event 16, 550.12k years later. Kool is fusing iron. Event 17, 550.1220003k years later. Kool explodes, heating up all of Centralia to thousands of degrees. At least 55% of Centralia's gas giants will turn into very small brown dwarfs or red dwarfs. Kool Jr. would have enough gas to turn into an F-type star. Event 18, 575.25k years later. Kool is now a black hole. Event 19, 1045 years later. All atoms decay. Event 20, 1094 years later. Kool dies. Event 21, 1096 years later. Centralia dies forever. The end.